We good to start? Hello everyone, nice to see you. I'm Shane Collier, I'm an art director at Evolving Web. So today we're going to be showing you a UI workshop that we recently ran with Sheridan College. So we're redesigning their website. At this point in time we've done the discovery activities, UX workshops, competitor analysis, and now we're starting to dig into their brand guidelines, which they do have established guidelines, but it's very much print designers have created this. There's a lot of students collaborating, so we have to take these guidelines and pull them into their refreshed website. Typically, this type of workshop, we want to engage more of the marketing team, key stakeholders, people involved in the design, so we can dig into them about how we can take these guidelines and pull it into the website. So it's going to be quite organic as we go through this within FigJam. So the goal today is to really get those stakeholder feedback to guide the art direction work that's to come. The agenda is split into 5 different spots. So at this point in time, we invite them into FigJam. We show them how to use it, how to use the sticky notes to give feedback. It's a collaborative session, so we're looking for their feedback because this is going to gauge how we produce the art direction. So the first part is brand and audience alignment. So within those intro questionnaires we've done, we want to confirm the findings. So what we know about Sheridan is it's a bold brand. It's very colorful. Students are the focused, photo-driven, beautiful photos. Hands-on, ambitious, empowering, innovative. But a key one is they want to speak to creativity. So they're very known for their art and design and animation courses. So as they design this, it has a very creative edge to it. So what we've done in the first phase is we want to confirm the design principles that we're going to carry on the website. We've dug into their marketing deliverables, their brand guidelines, and we've uncovered these design principles, which we want to confirm with them. So a few of the key items are, 1, the brand is using these bright abstracts, so it's this idea of energy and unity. They can be used in bordered accents or dynamic backgrounds to bring in color and visual interest. Overlap is a key item, so this idea of layering photos and abstract elements to break repetition, create movement on the page. Oops. Sorry. Asymmetry is another principle. So you can start to see those guidelines. Again, they're very print-driven. So it's this idea of fueling creativity, off-centered layouts, but still very much gridded. Bold photography, it makes it personal, striking. They have great photos to show the campus, the student life, the hands-on learning. So they want to convey this energy using photos. Circles as accents. So it is a very gridded design, sharp corners. So these circular accents, whether it's in iconography or numbers, it helps break up this and brings in some more friendliness. A key brand color is rhodamine. So we're using this element to draw in the eye to these important calls to actions. So you can start to see how these bordered accents, use of backgrounds, blurring is starting to be used throughout their guidelines. And then it's gridded with intention. So it is asymmetric, but we need some structure to this thing or it's going to get chaotic. Oops. And then this is questionable, but the brand does use these impactful headings and they change the weights, mainly in the H1s. So there could be opportunities, but the client, they left a comment. We're not sure how we're going to do this and control it. And then they're using line for lift. So they call these pipes, opportunities to highlight CTAs or other key elements. So from here, we confirmed these, and they said, yeah, that's what we want to do. This is a look at the Sheridan View book. So again, very print-focused, use of overlap through pulling in these abstracts. So what we did, we said, what do you love most about this? Start rolling in the hearts on specific moments, writing comments, what you like, where you see pitfalls moving into web, specifically accessibility with these abstracts, how the overlap is going to roll over to tablet and mobile. But overall, they love this brand, and this is what they want translated onto their website. So it is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of moving elements in here. So this is a look at their current website. So again, similar exercise, likes, dislikes, opportunities. So again, it's very blocky. They want something very creative, but it's a bunch of rectangles and squares everywhere. There's no clear hierarchy or storytelling how these abstracts are being used. It's just, let's add them here because that's what the brand says, but it's taking away from the focus of the photos. So we got some insights from them from here, which is great. And then the main exercise that we go with them is we've defined those design principles, and now we want to understand where they fit within the spectrum. So this is called the visual territory exercise, and basically we split it into key things that are important for this client. So the first one is going to be the use of color. So let's zoom in on this one. Okay, so right now, number one is we want them to place one star on the territory, far left, far right, or in the middle. We want a balance. Where do you see the best, what approach to color would best complement users navigating this website? This is your brand. We've put a few little remnants in here to show you where we see you, but is this the approach? So they did go this way. So we have to say, you know what, when we dig into deeper pages like news and event pages where it's very functional, do you still want us to take this bold and colorful approach? And then this is when they start to say, you know what, no, you're right. We want the home page, key landing pages, the program pages to be very eye-catching and get users scrolling, and they show that creativity. But when we dig into more functional elements, such as news and event detail pages or information with more content, we got to let this breathe. We need some balance. So they want an 80 to 20 rule, which is interesting. So as we move forward, we look at the design approach. So they're kind of on the left side, so structured and precise versus open and expressive. So one of the key stakeholders said, you know what, we want this brand to be creative, but most of people are leaning more toward the structured view. So the brand lives in both areas. It can be very structured, which is shown for this, use of line work and more gridded elements. But there's opportunities to use this, but be a little bit more expressive. So the client said, expressive is important, but a certain amount of structured is required because we give them the freedom to build their pages, set these components on their pages. It needs to be easy for them to apply from a maintenance perspective. Lots of comments here. So this is what Catherine said. When she saw most people voting here, she was around here. So this doesn't look like a higher ed examples, but she said this is kind of nice. Sheridan folks are creative problem solvers, breaking out of the box, bold, curious, caring, creative. She wants you to rethink about leveraging more creative outputs. Tej said he likes this, but he doesn't want Sheridan to look like a museum. He's happy to have these more loose components, but there needs to be some structure. Aiden said he loves this component. He could see this as a testimonial to showcase those faces very proudly. So we've curated some of these examples. Some are in the higher ed realm, and then some are just inspiration we gather from different sources. The next one is banner style. So which image treatment should we prioritize in important banners? Is it going to be small banners, which allow more information above the fold? Or is it going to be large takeovers where we create this immersive experience? Again, they're more on the far left. So, and then in this case, lots of hearts on this one. They like the idea of having a strong H1, There's a key CTA to drive users to what's most important. There could be opportunities to have an abstract, it could be an image. There's freedom to build around this. They like this approach as well. And then Ashley said, like, these immersive banners can be great for just showcasing one CTA, but we have to be careful where we add them because they feel like campaigns. Oops. So let's go further. So the abstract, this is going to be a tricky one. So which approach feels more engaging? Strong and immersive backgrounds, which they are currently doing, or primary use in cards, which they use as well, but I don't think that quite works as well. So this is going to be the key area because they're using it in both areas, but they are leaning more to the left. So there could be opportunities on specific page templates to have the abstract visual, and then as you scroll, you see the border. So then we can get the bordered shapes shown there without actually visualizing it. There could be some movement where we have it fill the page as users scroll. We could reference the actual border without having it, but just having the cards, the typography inset. And then Ashley confirmed they did like that bold color version on the very first one, but now she's saying, you know what, something like this is too much and not accessible. So we have to be mindful how we're going to use that abstract if it's more full pages. And then the use of overlap, which is a key brand element. This one they were a little bit scared of because not everyone is reacting well to the use of overlap. So heavy and playful usage. They did mention OCAD, that's an art and design college in Toronto. They're saying it's okay for them because it's only art and design. We can be a little bit more crazy. But they didn't want this approach. But some of their marketing deliverables are kind of doing this. It's getting quite busy. There's lots of different overlaps happening. We could do overlap within photos, but they're nervous about accessibility. We could go crazy with photos, but they're a little bit hesitant about using that. You know, accessibility issues. This person liked maybe we have a little bit of inset within the image. Their brand is starting to do overlap within multiple sources, so maybe that's a cleaner approach. They also said, let's not do this because it's not accessible, but their brand actually does this. So this tells us this isn't a brand piece that we want to carry forward. And then we go into layout. So do you think users will respond to asymmetrical and symmetrical grids? It's the same thing over and over. They want both. They don't want just very symmetrical components. They want a little bit of looseness happening. We find every client, they want some movement happening. So it's going to be dependent on the content, and we have to start mapping how we use that. What deserves more movement and prominence and contrast, opposed to, you know what, we got to treat maybe these programs equally. And then we go into typographic headings. So they want a site that is big and bold. What type of heading typography do you feel? So large and bold? Okay, it's kind of a 50-50 split, or modest and restrained. So I think when we dig into the site, we have to think from a hierarchy standpoint. Maybe those key banners or a few moments within the scroll, we can create some emphasis. And then other areas such as like the news and events page, this is where we can be a little bit more editorial. And then the final one is content density. So we put there some of their competitors. They're out-of-date sites. It's very compact. Or we want to lean in towards the more spacious area and lighter layout. So they're not right at the left edge, but they are open to opening it up and being more modern. So that's the presentation. As part of, this is an Evolve UX presentation, but this time we take about 5 minutes to ask you what you saw, what was presented. Could be one word, a few words. UI workshop could be one. The next one is what did you like about it? to be the process, the choice of imagery, the approach, and then the third one is what would we improve? If we could tweak this even further, how would we do that? So at this time we want to open it up to you guys to raise your hands, and the first one is, what did you see?
I would say cohesion for the process.
Cohesion?
What did you?
So the first one is what was presented to you. How would you describe this if it was a hashtag?
Guidance.
Guidance?
Process.
Process.
Interesting brief.
Interesting brief.
Engaging.
Engaging.
Professional.
Professional.
Nuance.
Nuance.
Specific.
Specific. Feel free just to belt it out.
Guided.
Guided. Okay, what did you like about it?
I like that it's like a game for the client, because when I gave the client the brief just with text, it's so boring for them. But it looks like a game, so I think they like the process.
Yeah, it's similar. I really like that it's engaging and interactive for the client to be active and have action to do, but at the same time they are not left to themselves. They don't need to know how FigJam works. They have the stores and the heart and the positive already there for them. So yeah, they are active while being very helped and supported in their action.
I like the context that was put into it. But yeah, there was good guidance.
It feels like interacting with the website builder. I like the fact that the client has his say in the process.
What would we do to improve it? I'm very curious. Because we've been elevating this for quite a while now. This is one template we use of maybe 3 or 4. So it changes based off what we have from the client.
Question first, what do they leave out with?
Pardon?
What do they leave out with your client? Do they leave out with something right at the end, or do you need to just go back and present recos at a different state?
We have a digital strategy slide that we present. So after the UX and the discovery exercises are completed, and then we roll in the main insights that we've gathered from this, which starts to set the thinking behind the creative direction and the thoughts that have been compiled here. And then we get sign off on this. And then we start building. Now we're going to start designing the creative direction with better insights of how to use those design principles in these very specific things.
I mean, at the end of the workshop, they just leave with...
Yeah, so we give them a week to, one, involve other stakeholders. They can go back because it is overwhelming.
Yeah,
and then they start to add more notes and consolidate and...
Because you leave them time to go and keep editing on this over the course of the week.
So we give them 1 week to say, you know what, we know, take your time, digest it, zoom in on these things. If you don't like anything, sometimes it's hard to find the best inspiration because there's quite a bit of things here, and we're not going to nail it every time. We do our best, but sometimes we're going to love something. Maybe it's the way this layout was done, but they might not like it. So, like, for instance, like, they really liked this version of Harvard. They said, love this layout, and then they start to think about where their content could fit into this, about how to segment it. So this gives us inspiration. They like the idea of contrast, which already works in the brand. It's a little bit more quiet. We got to bring in the brand elements here. The overlap isn't going to work here, I don't think. So we start to pick up on things they like, and we need to pull it all together. So this is inspiration. I'm not going to copy it exactly when we want to inject their brand into it, but this gives us a starting point. And
It gives them a voice.
it gives them a voice, because if we just design it, sometimes they want that. They trust you, they love your work, just here's the words, you guys make it happen. But when there's this many stakeholders in an education website, they all have different opinions. So we need to pull them together and align them.
Yeah, I was wondering, just because you get their hamster starting,
Yes.
and you leave them at the end, and their hamster's still having a really good time.
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
see that they're sometimes figuring out, like can they overthink it?
Yeah,
Can they come and like make this murkier for you to work on afterwards?
this specific slide, they were talking for 10 minutes back and forth. Like, we don't have that much time to run these workshops, so we got to push on, but this is what we want. We want to hear them. And they're all coming together, which is great too.
I'm wondering if so you've got like a kind of scale, right? From like left, right, to the very bottom, which I like. I wonder if the examples you lay out, instead of just being kind of like big blocks, because that becomes kind of very binary, like left versus right. If you, and this might depend on the examples you have, but if you could map those in a way that reflect that kind of bold and branded to the other side, and you could almost, I don't know if the client needs to appreciate that exactly, but if you have a better sense of like, here's what the most bold and branded example is, here's what the next one is, and then that kind of like, that the examples reflect the scale that you're working with. I wonder if that might help in some of those conversations, and it might help also in just like the volume that people are looking at, and the ability to kind of hone in and say like, okay, like we are talking about bold and brand, where we know we're on this side, but even within that, we are kind of sitting in here, and then maybe within the examples, because it can be hard sometimes, right? Like you can put an example in front of someone, and you might be looking at, okay, this specific, like this image or this lockup, like text lockup is kind of our example within this larger example. The client may not pick up on that exact piece and might be like, oh, we really like this thing over here. Like, oh, that's actually not what we're. So I wonder if there's a way to, even within some of those, like kind of hone in, whether, I don't know if that's like highlighting or fading out or something, but that might be a bit too complicated, but just adding like more nuance in there so that you can get honed in even closer than kind of like more broad, kind of like left versus right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sense? Yeah.
A few clients who this brand is very dear to their heart, we showed some of this, and one of them just said, I just want you to copy or just do what you have in the view book. I can't relate to any of these images.
Yeah.
But you know, the others who get it, she wasn't necessarily in that design side, which we were targeting, but it will happen. She wants us just to copy their print and translate it because she can't see herself in here. She gets the idea that we're trying to start to create a story and segment the different levels. But for her, it's just like, yeah, she doesn't get it.
Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard.
Are we at time? We have another, yeah. We'll bring up the next presenter, but thank you everyone.
Can I ask a question? Like, so what do you do when you get the answers that all fall directly in the middle?
This is when we have to dig into them and start segmenting that. Is it a specific page? Is it a level? We got to get them talking. It's when they're all at left and right, where they're not aligned, is when we need to pull them together. We'll bring up the next speaker. Thank